I found you.
The Severn Trent Capital Markets Day. My name's Christine Hodgson, and next month I take over from Andy Duff as the chair. So for those of you that don't know me, I am currently the UK chairman of Capgemini, and I'm also in charge of global corporate social responsibility. And those are two roles that I give up at the end of this month. Now, when I was doing my due diligence on Severn Trent as part of the process back in September, there were a number of things that particularly struck me about the company. Social purpose, customer centricity, and performance. And I can honestly say that one board meeting in and nearly 20 days of induction, what I saw from the outside is very much now what I see from the inside. So over the last couple of months, I've been on the vans, I've been and met customers, I've spent time with the waste and water treatment works, network teams, business services, engineers, innovators, central function teams, school outreach program, just about every single aspect of the company. And wherever you go, there is one common feeling that you get. And that's that the people who work for Severn Trent really love the company. You know, their passion and commitment to do the right thing for customers is palpable. And I think that's something that you should all take lots and lots of comfort from. So one of the things that that sort of focus on customer centricity, you know, when you walk around the building, you can almost inhale the sense that everybody appreciates that they're managing critical infrastructure and that they've got to ensure that customers get the services that they need to function. And you know, that focus on customer centricity, it translates into how also we meet our regulatory requirements. And not just from a compliance point of view, but also when it comes to the ODIs, the outcome delivery incentives. So while those targets are owned by Liv and the management team, there's a laser-like focus, and it runs all the way through the organisation with everyone focused on delivering. And maybe that's not surprising when you think that the vast majority of people that work for Severn Trent are also the company's customers. Now today, you're also going to hear a lot about Severn Trent's commitment to the environment. And as somebody who's spent quite a lot of time on this topic over recent years, I've been delighted to read about the triple pledge that the company made last year on renewable energy, on net zero, and on electric vehicles. Now, of course, some of the company's assets have been in place for decades. I've been amazed, for example, by the Elan Valley Aqueduct, you know, built over a century ago, that uses gravity to transport water 73 miles from the Welsh Hills to Birmingham. And it's very low use of carbon. But actually, of course, we do have water and waste assets that are quite energy hungry. And so there's more that we need to do on that. And I've also been quite fascinated when I went with business services, for example, to see how we are using food waste and how we're using our own sludge and converting that into power for our own operations. And today, you're going to see about the company's investment in technology and ways of working that are going to help it to achieve its pledges. Now, when people ask me why did I join the company, there are a number of reasons. Of course, the very strong focus on social purpose, very attracted by the fact that the company wants to be the most trusted water company. But also, I was attracted by the board and the quality of the board and the opportunity to work with Liv. And so on that note, I'd like to hand over to Liv. Thank you.
So thank you, Christine, for kicking off today. And I think we're the lucky ones. We're pretty sure of that over the course of the next few years. So massive welcome to those of you who've not been before to Coventry, to our headquarters. And the reason we've got the headsets on is this obviously is our live operational building. So we've got the contact centre literally just here. We've got teams working around. So we've got to keep the volume down a little bit, be quiet as church mice, at the same time as giving you a hopefully really engaging experience. Now today is all about sustainability. It's about social purpose. But before we start today, it might help a little bit if we go back to 18 months ago when we last talked at one of our capital markets days. Now, those of you who were there, you'll definitely remember the little hedged chairs, and it was a really engaging experience during which we laid out for you all, what is this AMP going to look like? What does AMP7 feel like? Now, you won't remember the date, because it's just any old date in your diaries. I remember the date. It was the 14th of September, because a week earlier, we'd handed over our beautifully crafted 3,000 pages to Ofwat, hoping they were going to think it was also a beautifully crafted 3,000 pages of brilliance. And so that hope and that slight aspiration and slight intrepidation, we were just embarking on sharing with you all what was in the plan and what we were looking forward to doing over the next few years. And we said quite openly on the day that the plan was aimed at making sure that we balanced the needs of all of our stakeholders. We didn't say we would satisfy the need of every single stakeholder. It was a balanced plan in the round. And that's what we hoped the regulator would think, and we were very pleased to then achieve the fast-track status when we were actually chosen as one of 3 companies who had got that balance right. And I think price reviews are like that. They are a game of balance and of making sure that it feels good enough for all stakeholders for what it is that they want out of the next 5 years. Now, since then, we've not been just sitting back resting on our laurels. We've absolutely been engaging on the finer details, on making sure that we understand as things move, as you move from submission of a plan through to acceptance of a final determination, we're engaging on that final detail. And it's fair to say, it didn't exactly stay static, did it? So we saw some pretty large market movements on the WACC, for example. But for us, net in the round, we ended up being made whole. So we gained on the TOTEX to about the same tune as we lost on the WACC. And on the ODIs, some of the representations, some of the industry conversation meant that the ODIs became slightly higher outperformance on the one hand and slightly better downside on the other. So again, a slight improvement through all of that conversation discussion. But the big thing is that we, both Severn Trent and Hafren Dyfrdwy, we actually are 2 of the only 3 companies in this price reviews period to gain more TOTEX than we actually asked for. And that means that we actually are masters of our own destiny. We asked for a certain amount of money. We've gained that. We made sure that we asked for a certain amount of targets as to what we could do. And again, we've been given the opportunity now to really plough ahead and to genuinely take the future into our own hands. And the fact that we took all of our workforce through BRUNTINGTHORPE 18 months ago means we've been working flat out on delivery for the last period of time. This isn't like we just received our lives in December, and have then been saying to the teams, right, this is what we received. We've been working during the course of that last 18 months to get the fast start that we want to have. And if you consider that 4 companies are now going to the CMA, you could actually almost say that we're actually 2.5 years ahead of a good number of companies and a good number of our competition. So I'm not saying by any stretch that we've got anything other than a massively ambitious, massively challenging journey ahead of us, but it is the journey that we chose, and it is the journey that we chose to embark on 18 months ago. And that gives us real hope. And don't forget, we have got a totally unrivaled outperformance on ODIs that we know we've got the momentum to push on and do that hopefully again. And James has done an amazing job over the last few years on financing, taking us from a bottom quartile position to an upper quartile position, meaning we know that we're in net reward straight away on day one on financing. And that again is an excellent start to what is going to be a really ambitious but challenging next few years of our lives. So if we move on and take a look at the last thing I want to talk about in positioning of AMP7, which is social purpose. So often, people come along, and there's almost like a sense, I think, of people now talking about sustainability. Actually, it's quite different for us. So whilst we spent the last few years telling you about the what we were going to deliver in the course of AMP7, internally, we've known that for years. To some extent, we've been focusing our efforts on the how. And we knew that for us to be successful for the next 50 years, for the next 25 years, for the next 5 years, take whichever horizon you look at, we knew that we've got to make sure that customers truly trust us and they will judge us on our impact on the environment and the planet. We know that we've got to attract the absolute top-notch talent. And people really judge employers now as to how they treat the wider society and the communities they live and work in. We know that actually we've got an organisation where effectively our job is intertwined with the environment. You could almost view the environment as our supply chain, to be honest. Effectively, it does the job for us if we do it in the right manner. So whilst externally we've been telling you what, internally, the how we've been working on has been creating a much more sustainable business for the future. And that's what we're going to unveil a little bit of today, is some of that sense of how we're going to use the natural environment supply chain to create success for the medium and the long term. And the reason, one of the ways that you can see that we've had that kind of plan for a while is if you look carefully at our plan, and we tried to bring it out in the RNS today, there's £1.2 billion worth of investment already linked into our plan in this space. And there's also a whole range of clever incentive mechanisms where we get rewarded for doing the right thing for the planet and the right thing for society, as well as the right thing for our company for the long term. Now let's take a bit of a step back from AMP7 and just selfishly ourselves, and let's have a little look at the context of where everyone is thinking about in this particular societal space, and then we'll talk about today in a bit more detail.
Welcome to the Anthropocene, the age of humans. We are now the dominant force of change on the planet.
Nature once determined how we survive. Now we determine how nature survives.
Waste from one process becomes food for the next. Waste is just a resource in the wrong place. That's even true for carbon dioxide. It's true for plastics. It's true for everything that we think we're throwing away. There is no away. And so we need to create economies that actually have infrastructure that enable that circular design.
Sustainability is now the only business plan.
I think that in the future, when we look back, there will be two types of companies. Companies that got it and companies that didn't get it. I know which segment I'd like to belong to.
The only viable future is one in which business innovates to demand less of our world. In that future, the wild will recover. We can restore the balance of nature, fix the relationship between our planet and our business, and change the way we live on our planet for the better, forever.
It's pretty compelling stuff, isn't it? And what I love about that particular video is they talk about these two types of companies, those that get it and those that don't get it. And today, I think you're going to get a sense that we're really sure that we absolutely get it. And not just here on the stage, but in the very much the DNA of our organisation. And that's why we asked you to make the trip, to get the train, to head to Coventry, because we can introduce you here to tens of colleagues to get a real sense of the culture of the organisation and the fact that firmly in our DNA is a much more sustainable approach to how we're going to deliver maybe some of the same outputs as the past, but in a very, very different manner. So as I said, we see the natural environment as being literally part of our supply chain, part of our job. We see there's an amazing opportunity with our particular product linked with a manner that we can do things differently to be a differentiator for us within our sector, as well as ours versus other utilities in the UK and also globally. Now, you would judge any business, I would imagine, quite harshly as to whether they look at risks in the round and take them seriously. And of course, one of the greatest risks for us is clearly climate change. And that is a big and real risk. And we've seen that probably even more in evidence in the last few years, from the long hot summer a couple of years ago through to the most recent flooding and devastation we've seen across our patch in recent months. And every year, probably what you don't know, is that we run 10,000 different climate change scenarios. That's part of how we run water resource management. And when we look at it, we analyse against all of those scenarios, what's the opportunity, what occurs to us, to our natural supply chain, to our business, if you have a 2-degree warming, if you have a 3-degree warming, what's the implications for us? And we take out of those scenarios some central numbers and we effectively say, this is what we've got to assume is the impact of climate change. How do we get ourselves ready for the future in that moving, ever-evolving situation? And I think what we've done is a few things. The first thing is we've taken really good extra calls in AMP6 on resilience. We feel we've prioritised the right areas. We feel we've got ourselves into good shape and made improvements where we thought we could be more resilient for the future. We feel good that we've received all of the money that we asked for in AMP7, so we haven't got to make that priority between A and B. We've received the funds that we've requested right at the start of the price review process, and that means we have the funds to invest in all of those climate change scenarios that we felt were right to be invested during the next 5 years. And today you'll get the chance to see a few of those things. So let's talk about what we're actually going to be doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to be sat here. You're not going to see many slides. I know they're going to be gutted. There's going to be no charts. I mean, literally, it's going to be tough, but you're going to make it. What we're going to do instead is we're going to divide you up and we're going to take you into zones. And we're going to start with 3 environmental zones. And the first of those zones is going to bring to life, effectively, how do we use the natural innovation that exists within the environment to make our business better for the future? So we're going to talk about the innovation within our local environment. The second thing we'll talk about, and they won't be in this particular order, the second thing we'll talk about is we're going to give you a chance to see that we really take climate change really seriously here. This is not something we're planning for in 2050. We're planning for it like now in the next few years. So we're going to talk to you about the triple carbon pledge, and we're going to bring to life through 6 different areas in that particular zone exactly what we're doing across a whole range of areas to get ourselves ready to go net zero in 2030. Also in the environment area, we're going to show you how we're using technology and the ability to influence customer behaviour to really assist with water resource management for the future. So that's the 3 environmental zones you can look forward to. Now, I get super excited about the whole opportunity and the sustainable future of Severn Trent, but if there were 2 measures that I was allowed to get even more excited about, I would say it's 2 of those in that space. I mean, most businesses are talking about 2050. That's the government ambition, isn't it, on net zero? Really good, well-recognised brands are kind of going bold and going 2040, and we're openly committing to 2030 and committed long before most of the people about a year ago. And that really gets the whole of Severn Trent properly excited that we're taking a leadership position on net zero. And we're a heavy carbon sector, so it's not like it's a walk in the park for us. That's one thing I think hopefully you'll get as excited as I am. The second of the ones, that just as an individual measure, is the fact that we're going to effectively take a really big leadership play on biodiversity. So the government has outlined that in order for the UK to fit within the Paris Conventions, then we've got to restore biodiversity. An extra 500,000 hectares of land have got to go into biodiversity net gain. And we're going to take, and that's called the Nature Recovery Network, and we're going to own 1% of that overall nationwide target and actually improve 5,000 hectares. And you'll learn more about that today, which again, I think is a magnificent ambition and a really great thing to be involved in. So that's the environment area. But it's not just about environment, is it? When we talk about sustainability, it's about society. And that's the 4th of the zones you'll see today. And in this zone, you'll get the chance to understand, from a colleagues, customers and communities perspective, exactly what does it mean to be a great organisation and leading on societal matters. And we've got this lovely dynamic in Severn Trent, where the vast majority of people, they come to work here every day, they're also our customers, and they live in their communities and take an active part. So the people you'll meet in that zone, they'll effectively be representing all 3 parts of that in the course of the conversations. We've got some lovely little case studies, some real vignettes of Severn Trent folk, and I think it'll bring to life the fact that we're clear success for us is about being a brilliant employer. We're already in the top 5% of utilities globally for our engagement scores, but we want to push on and be even better. It's about being fantastic in communities. We give away 1% of our profits, and that's unique, I guess, and one of the top footsies for giving away money to charitable causes. But again, it's not just what you're doing, it's how we're going to do it, and you'll learn about that today. And of course, we want to make sure that our customers have an amazing experience that is personalised, that is modern, but feels as though it's helping those that truly need the assistance. All of that will come out during the society zone. And if all of that wasn't worth one's £60 return train ticket, there's even one more opportunity. We'll then come back here later, and Christine and Brona are going to share with us their thoughts on what great governance in a great organisation looks like. And you'll get the chance, you'll see many presentations like this, you'll get the chance to compare. Do we really understand how vital governance is? Are we clear on what's the opportunity to make sure that it's part of the DNA, that doing the right thing is built into the core values of the organisation? I think we'll give you an opportunity to see that we know that we have to earn and maintain that trust and how important that is to our future. And we genuinely think great governance is a differentiator, and I think we have got some great examples of where that's working well in practice. And you're bound to have questions by then. So at the end of the day, you'll have myself and the full executive team here to answer questions on any topic that you so desire. So that's our outline during the course of it. But to set you up in the right mood and to hopefully get you, I guess, excited about the investment, the opportunity, I want to show you a photo from yesterday, because it's lovely to have you guys here today, and you look half excited, if I'm honest, but this is what the organisation looked like yesterday. So this is, at the end of the day, how engaged and how truly pumped up for it our top 300 leaders were. And that's why we have Capital Markets Days the same day as business leaders. It's a perfect opportunity to multitask. We share with our top 300 people all of our plans for the future, and then we share with yourselves, our important stakeholders, all of the important plans for the future. And I think it's great to work at a company like Severn Trent, where you know that what you do actually matters. People can't live without water, and that's ace. However, to work at a company that does something essential and also is doing it in a manner that is even more focused on sustainability of the future, that is twice as exciting. And that's the faces you see of our people there yesterday, as these guys thinking, I so want to be up for this. And if you think about it, I guess the way I look at it is if I've got 300 people genuinely galvanized, genuinely energized on the ambitions that we're sharing, then we're not just going to deliver what we talk about today. We're bound to outperform. We're bound to go even further on the basis that those 300 are going to go back and really engage the 6,500 Severn Trenters. And before you know it, it's this lovely domino effect that just naturally takes place. So to get you in the right mood, I'm going to show you a little video now that we're launching on social media today, which brings to life all of our ambitions in this space into one single, I think, quite cute 90-second video. So then, what are we actually going to be doing today? So we're going to be dividing you up into two fantastic groups. And before you go, let me tell you what I hope you get out of today, and then maybe you can mull that in the back of your mind. So first of all, we've previously shared the what is in our plan. We've talked about exactly what it looks like over the course of the next 5 years. We've shared with you quite openly that we intend to outperform, that we start our position with a good track record on ODIs, with a strong situation in terms of financing, and we've been working hard to get ourselves ready to be in the perfect cost lines. So we feel good that we've got the opportunity, we've now got to achieve that and deliver it, and of course it's a bold ambition. You're bound to pick up extra details as you wander around some of the ODIs or some of the performance commitments, but today is really around the how. It's about how we intend to achieve all of that, but also making ourselves a leader in the space of sustainability and setting ourselves up for a long-term, genuinely successful future, using the environment in a manner that is great for communities, great for our people, but also great for the planet. So you're probably going to get a sense more of the how today than additional whats, but I know the eagle-eyed will also find a whole load of whats they also can take great comfort from. We're going to divide us into two groups because there's no point cramming us all together. And then when you actually get into those two groups, you're going to end up being subdivided endlessly to watch and see different things, which will give you a real chance to meet endless different Severn Trenters during the course of the day, but also ask different Q&A across the piece. Our people love curiosity. It's one of our 4 values. So feel free to be as curious as you want. I'm afraid you're going to be overwhelmed by passion. That's another one of our 4 values. And you're going to see that in heaps and in spades during the course of the morning.